Whether it's a disgusting parasite, a creepy dark web video, or just some casual space terror, this list is full of things you'll want to keep out of your search history. And why search them? I'm about to tell you all about each of them, so you don't even have to. Here is part 5 of the top 10 terrifying things you should never Google. Starting off this list, in our number 10 spot, we have Chordodes formosanus. Sure. This is the scientific name for a kind of horsehair worm that has its sights set on the praying mantis. This little parasite, well, not little at all actually, is a type that will pass through a variety of different hosts through its life stages. They start out their life in the guts of small insects that the praying mantis would feed on. From there, once the mantis is nice and infected, these disgusting creatures begin to grow. When the worm is sufficiently mature, it takes control over the insect's body and directs them to a body of water. It gets them to jump in, which allows this horrifying thing to swim out. These worms can grow up to 90 centimeters long, which is disgusting, and they are super dangerous to the mantis. That is because when it breaks free in order to go and reproduce itself, it leaves behind a half-empty mantis husk. A search of these guys will have videos and images of these guys coming up, including people dunking praying mantises into water and watching these wiggly guys escape. It honestly made me feel sick to my stomach, so I can't even imagine how the mantis feels. In our number 9 spot today, we have blank room soup. If you've been on the internet for a while, chances are you've probably seen this video floating around. This entire thing really is just the stuff of nightmares. Basically, the video is set in a blank room and it features a man eating some kind of soup. The soup eater has his face censored and it sounds like he is crying while eating this soup, and this is all creepy enough, but there is another totally freaky thing in this video. Basically, there's a guy in dark clothing with a mascot head on who is rubbing this guy's back as he eats the soup. Soon, another guy wearing an identical outfit comes in and does the exact same thing. I realize this sounds very strange as I'm explaining it, but it truly is one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. For years, rumors swirled about this video, some saying it originated on the dark web, and the guy eating soup was being held against his will, and the soup was made out of his own wife. How horrible is that? While we may have a far less sinister answer as to where this video came from, it truly still is chilling to watch. In our number 8 spot today, we have vent worms under a microscope. This one is so random, I'm not even sure why you would be googling it, but if I'm being honest, you're definitely better off just not doing that. Hydrothermal vents live on the ocean floor and they are the result of tectonic activity. Through this tectonic activity, as seawater seeps downward through the oceanic crust, it gets really hot and becomes very rich in chemicals. This leads to the water becoming so buoyant that it comes back out of the surface of the sea floor, and that is what is called a hydrothermal vent. The water coming out of the vent is that same super hot, super chemically rich water, and it is an extremely important part of underwater ecosystems. The water from the vent is highly acidic and hot, while the water in the depths of the ocean is slightly basic and freezing cold. There are many different smaller species who come to the vent areas because of the chemicals in the water, as well as the heat, which helps certain types of food sources grow, which they then want to consume. One of these creatures is aptly named the vent worm. These guys are super tiny and they can't really be seen with the naked eye, and we should consider ourselves lucky for that because of what they look like under a microscope. These creatures are fully nightmare inducing with creepy hook-like teeth. I'm just glad they aren't an everyday occurrence in the ocean, cause I would never go swimming again. In our number 7 spot today, we have the Australian paralysis tick. Ticks are considered ectoparasites since they wreak havoc on their host from the outside of the body, while most other parasites need to be inside the body. There are, of course, different kinds of ticks that can transmit diseases such as Lyme disease, but in these kinds of cases, the transmission of disease is not actually the tick's goal, which is why today we are talking specifically about the Australian paralysis tick. These ticks purposefully secrete a neurotoxin that causes paralysis. Alright, definitely not good, but this can be especially dangerous depending on the different areas that the tick paralyzes, because it has the ability to paralyze something like the lungs. which of course would be a very bad situation. The good news is that once the tick is removed, the effects of the toxin should wear off completely. I thought when I get the chance to go to Australia, my only worries would be the snakes and the spiders, but I guess I'll just add this tick to the list. Safe to say these creepy crawlies are just one Google search away from sending you down a rabbit hole of the disgusting. In our number 6 spot today we have Vandellia Cirrhosa. Vandellia Cirrhosa is a very tiny eel-like parasitic fish. Yeah, I guess this is just a parasite list now. This is what happened. I googled one of these guys and then went on a spree. That's why I'm warning you against it. These guys feed on other fish by swimming into their gills, where they then began drinking their blood, which gave them the nickname vampire fish. Vampire fish can also enter the human body through any orifice it finds. Okay? And it will drink human blood as well. They have backwards facing spines, so they will lodge themselves wherever they enter the body. After filling up on their tasty meal, they usually end up passing away there, but they are bloated from eating so much. This means that surgery will be required in order to remove it, and depending on where it ended up, this surgery has varying degrees of difficulty, if you get what I'm saying. Orifices, surgery, it's not good. In our number 5 spot today we have the hagfish. There are about 76 different species of hagfish, and some of them are known to live as deep as 5,500 feet below the surface of the ocean. While hagfish isn't particularly the best name in the world, they are also known by the equally disgusting name of slime eels. These creatures definitely are pretty horrendous to look at, no offense to them. Rather than a mouth with a jaw, these strange looking creatures instead just have a ring of razor sharp teeth. Really love it. They use these teeth to burrow into the flesh of dead whales on the sea floor, and once inside, they then basically just stay there and eat their way from the inside out. That is all horrible enough, but what's worse is how they got their slimy nicknames. Basically, their body produces a sort of goop that is used to ward off predators. If they are stuck in the clutches of a terrifying predator, they release what is described as, quote, copious amounts of this slimy goop that is designed to clog the mouth or gills of said predator, which will hopefully have them releasing these little devils. Aside from this defense mechanism, if their slime doesn't work and they find themselves still caught in the grasp of a predator, they can sort of tie themselves into a knot in order to hopefully escape the clutches. All in all, a creepy, slithery little slimy creature with a ring of razors for a mouth. It's just a thing I personally would rather not search up on the web. In our number 4 spot today we have the wandering black hole. The Hubble Space Telescope is one of the most important scientific creations of all time. The Hubble walked so James Webb could run. Since its launch into low Earth orbit in the 1990s, this space has been delivering us amazing space discoveries, and this one is a bit of a frightening one. Back in 2017, the Hubble located a black hole, which is already frightening, but this one was peculiar. That is because they found that this one was being pulled or manipulated by gravitational waves. Basically, what this means is that at some point, this black hole is going to escape its own galaxy and begin roaming around the universe. Black holes are bad enough. I don't want them to start wandering around. The good news, however, is that despite this black hole weighing approximately the same as 1 billion suns as it flies through space at 5 million miles per hour, it's estimated to be about 8 billion light years away from Earth, so we're pretty safe at this point. But here's the thing, if we found one, it is very likely that there are many more out there. One search of this wandering black hole and you are going down a space rabbit hole of only the most terrifying things. In our number 3 spot today we have the Rat King. I would have thought that this was just the male antagonist in the Nutcracker, but turns out it is far, far worse. Rats are pretty freaky to many people for a variety of reasons, but the image of this one is even worse than just a single standalone rat. Basically, the term Rat King refers to a large group of rats that all have their tails tied together at the end. It is indeed a rare occurrence, and the tails could be stuck together for a variety of reasons. Whether it's because the hair got entangled together, there's some sort of sticky substance holding them together, or just, you know, a regular old knot. Whatever the case is, a Google search of this term will only have images coming up, and it truly is unsettling to see. It's obviously sad because no one wants to see an animal in a tricky situation, but also, it's rats. Rats are creepy. A bunch of rats all tied together is extra creepy. The reports of these rat kings mainly come from European countries, and although the existence of this phenomena is for some reason debated due to the limited evidence of its natural occurrence, there are still plenty of terrifying image results any search will yield. In our number 2 spot today, we have a pilot's view in a storm. Taylor and I were on a plane this week, a few actually, so when I found out about this via watching a video, I was thankful I hadn't seen it before our flight. The view for a pilot has got to be pretty great for a lot of the job. Flying over beautiful places with incredible sights, that sounds amazing. And you know, pilots have only the best eyesight, so they're seeing it all super well. Flying at night, however, well, for pilots, I'm sure it's totally fine and normal, but when the average passenger catches a glimpse of what they are seeing, especially when the weather isn't exactly being kind, well, it was definitely enough to totally freak me out. A Google search of what a pilot sees when flying at night through a snowstorm isn't exactly a comforting sight. In fact, it's absolutely terrifying. It looks like we're traveling to another universe, not just barreling through our skies. I of course trust the pilots who have the training and the expertise, but it's just very unnerving to know what they are seeing while I'm just passed out with my neck pillow, you know? In our number 1 spot today, we have the hairy frog. Last time we talked about some weird frogs. Today we've got another kind. This frog isn't poisonous. It isn't growing eggs out of its back. These frogs simply just are hairy, and it is so unsettling. The Central African Trichobatetrachus robustus. These frogs, they're often referred to as the hairy frog or the horror frog, which I really agree with. These frogs have the unusual feature of having a thick mane of hair that is seen on their flanks and hind legs in the males of the species. According to experts, many believe that this feature is useful to the frogs because it could help them to stay underwater for longer periods of time. This proves to be extremely useful when they're tasked with guarding the female's eggs. This isn't the only weird feature of these frogs, however. Unfortunately, frogs also have claws. These bones burst through the toes of their hind legs, and it is said that they are used in quote interspecific combat. This has all led to these guys receiving the nickname Wolverine frog, which I honestly think is the most apt. Maybe they'll make an appearance in Deadpool 3. Who knows? Alright guys, that has been our list for today. Thanks so much for out. I've been your host today, Olivia Kozlowski, and I will see you again soon. Bye!